Don't they say opening an umbrella indoors is bad luck? Unless you're a photographer. Let's go with that. Okay, so last week I put out a video about the new Canon R6 Mark III, and my perspective on it was a little bit different than most others online. And I meant every word of it. It's a great camera, but I want to say something that might sound a little contradictory coming off the back end of that. And I think it's important. That camera did not make my photos in my studio any better. And your next camera won't make yours better either. So let's talk about why. I know, you've heard it before, but here's the thing. I don't think most photographers actually believe it yet. Because if they did, they'd stop spending $2,000 on a body upgrade and they'd start spending $200 on better lighting or better understanding of light, and almost nobody seems to do that. So I want to tell you a little story about my humble beginnings in photography. Before all the gear, before the clients, before this studio. Because I think that's what we do as photographers. We tell stories. So let's consider this story time. Maybe it resonates with you and your story a little bit, or maybe yours is different. My very, very first camera was the Canon EOS 7D. It was 2009 or so. I was in film school studying directing and writing, and photography, truthfully, wasn't even on my radar, like at all. And I bought that camera because it was in the middle of what they called the DSLR revolution. And let me know in the comments if you know what I'm talking about here. I'm gonna age myself good here. Basically, filmmakers were starting to use DSLR cameras to make their films because suddenly you had removable lenses. I think the 5D Mark II led the way for that. And Canon noticed the hit that this was, so they released the crop frame Canon EOS 7D that had a dedicated video side to it. And it was this whole movement, and I wanted in. That was the entire reason I bought the camera. I didn't really understand lenses, I didn't understand focal lengths, I definitely didn't understand studio lighting with flash. I bought the 7D with the kit lens. I want to say it was the 24-105, I think. And then I also bought a 50mm 1.8, or the nifty 50, because literally everybody told me that that's the lens to get. It was like $100, cheap lens. And I was like, okay, I guess I need this thing. And when I showed up to class the first day with my 7D and this combo, all the other film students were drooling over it. And I remember feeling like, wow, that's cool. I must have a really good camera here. But that was about the depth of the gear knowledge of mine at that time. I knew how to tell a story. I knew how to write and direct, because that's what I was going in there for. But a gearhead, I was not. Not a gearhead, I was. And I still have that 7D, by the way. It's right here. It is a total relic. Though not a brick, it still will turn on, it'll still take a shot. Something rattles a little bit. It sits on a shelf right over here. And it means a lot to me because this camera started everything for me. Just not in the way I expected, I suppose. I should get this thing framed or encased in glass. If you listen carefully, something shakes around inside. We'll just pretend that's not happening. Hey, before I tell you how that transitioned into still photography, I want to say this video is brought to you by the DaVinci Creator Workflow System V2. It's the 5-star editing system creators are using to save hours every week making content. You get preset timelines for every social media platform, organized project bins, and built-in mini effects that help your content finally feel consistent and faster to crank out. Hundreds of creators are already using it, and the link's down below if you're ready to edit smarter, not harder. It's what I'm using to edit this video, along with all my viral Instagram reels and videos too. Definitely check it out, see what others are saying about it, and pick it up for yourself. Okay, so here's where the turn happened for me. At some point during film school, I stumbled across a photographer online named Carl Taylor. He's one of my earliest photography mentors, and I don't think he even knows it, but he's great. He's a very serious commercial photographer, very talented, but he was teaching photography on YouTube long before most people were doing that sort of thing. And something about the way he was working with off-camera flash just grabbed me. Not in the technical way, I obviously didn't understand why or how it was working, but more so the magic of it. It was this idea that you could take this invisible thing, light, and you could shape it and control it. You could place it, with intention somewhere and completely transform how someone or something looked with a flash. Like you see something one way with your eyes, you click the shutter, and you see it differently in the photo. That fascinated me in a way that nothing else in photography had up until that point. So what I went out and I bought myself my first flash gun. Still got that too. This is it. It is another relic of mine in the studio. It's a Canon 430 EX cheap old speedlight. I mean, at the time it wasn't cheap. It was like 350 bucks, which was a lot for me at that time. And I also picked up a real cheap umbrella. It's this guy here. It's funny, I still have all this stuff. This is the PhotoFlex 45-inch, I believe. Great little umbrella, by the way. Money doesn't always dictate the outcome, if you know what I mean. So I would take this setup, these 4 little items, and I would just shoot. I'd grab my brother, I'd grab an old girlfriend, or honestly, anyone willing to stand in front of my camera at the time. God bless them. And I'd set up this umbrella and just figure it out. And the 7D had this little like pop-up flash right here. I'd show you, but there's no battery in this thing. Basically, the flash was set to slave mode on the 430 EX2, so when it saw this flash fire, it would fire. And I didn't even understand how that worked at the time, come to think of it. I was just like, cool, this works wirelessly. I don't know why people need triggers. So I'd work on balancing ambient light with flash. I'd use reflectors for fill, and I was just learning by doing over and over and over again. And I probably looked way more legitimate than I actually was, because when you show up somewhere with a big camera like this and a light on a stand, people are gonna assume that you're a professional. And I got kicked out of a lot of places because of that, like many places. The Broadmoor, come to think of it, in Colorado, beautiful resort. They weren't too thrilled about me setting up shop on their property one day. They basically had no idea that I had no idea what I was doing yet. I just looked the part. But here's the thing, it was that period of just experimenting with one flash and one modifier. That's where everything actually happened. I think I went from the 7D to the 5D Mark III, which was my first full frame body, to the 5D4, to the R5, and now I'm seriously considering buying the R6 Mark III. But think about it for a second. That's over 15 years of different camera bodies and new releases coming out from all the major brands. But the thing that took me from someone messing around with a speed light like this and running a very busy studio in LA was never the camera itself. It was thousands of hours I spent learning light before I ever called myself a professional. And here's what I see constantly now, and it kills me because I recognize it. A photographer buys a new camera body, they get really excited about it, they shoot with it for a few weeks, and the photos look just about the exact same. Maybe they're a little sharper, maybe the autofocus nails it more consistently, but the actual quality of their work, the portrait, the way the light falls off the face, hasn't changed at all. Because that was never a gear problem. That was a lighting problem. Or more specifically, a lighting understanding problem. And I'm not calling anyone out, obviously. I'm describing a version of myself that existed at one point in time. You know, it's that version that thought better equipment, more money into more gear would close the gap between my work and the work of other photographers that I admired. I'd look at their images and they just had this quality to them, and early on I kept thinking it must be some sort of a lens I didn't own or some post-processing editing trick I didn't know. It wasn't. It was the light. It was always light. They just understood it better than I did at that point in time. So if you're watching this and you're in that phase right now where you're thinking about your next gear purchase, and trust me, I get it. I'm literally debating buying an R6 III right now. I want you to ask yourself something honestly first. Can you predict what your light is gonna do before you turn it on? Not roughly, I mean precisely. Do you know what happens when you move your key light 6 inches closer to your subject? Can you look at a portrait that you admire and reverse engineer the lighting setup from the shadows and the catch lights? If the answer to any of that is not really, then the next thing you should do is maybe not buy a camera body. If you have one that works, then take that money, invest it into something else, like learning light. That could be a workshop, a mentorship, even just focus deep dive on YouTube. That understanding, that investment in your learning will build on top of itself for the rest of your career. I mean, think of it. A camera body depreciates the second you open the box, and it won't ever make you better. So that's a hard pill to swallow, but it's true. Look, I started with this guy, the 7D, a $100 nifty 50 lens, and a speed light with an umbrella. That period of just learning what light does is the single biggest reason I'm sitting in a studio today. So if you're about to drop $2 on a new camera body because you think it's gonna change your work, I'm not saying don't buy it. Buy it if you want it. I love gear, but be honest with yourself about whether the thing holding you back is really the camera itself. All right, I'll leave it at that. If you enjoyed this talk, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button so we can keep talking cameras and professional photography together. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.